Are we good? Okay, so I'm going to try and do this before somebody else walks back into the house or even comes down the stairs or makes noise, something. It's really crazy. But hello. Amber here. Welcome back. How are you guys adjusting to the whole new normal now, right? I know this is crazy, but it's almost over. God willing, it's almost over, right? I serve at my youth group at my church, and I keep in contact with some of the youth. And, you know, just this morning I asked them, how are you guys doing? How are you guys holding up? And one of them responded like, I'm so bored. So I get it. For those of you that are bored, or for those of you who have kids that are bored, hang in there. It's going to be okay. But listen, let me encourage you. It's going to be over. God willing, it's going to be over soon. And just be encouraged, because God is in control, and let him work. Use this time to get closer to God, to lean in, get in his word, pray, worship, and just allow him to work. Allow him to work in your life, in your family's life, in your home. Just allow him to work. Don't hold back. If you're expecting things to go back to the way it was when all this is over, I don't believe that will happen. It will not. We will not be going back to the same. But God is in full control, and he knows what he's doing, and we have to trust him. So anyways, I'm here. So, you know, what's funny to me is that I have this mug here, right? And a lot of videos of people I watched, they'll have a mug, they'll have their journal and their Bible or notebook or whatever, but they never drink from it. So for the sake of it not being just for show, because this is my little mug. I drink one of these a day. It's super small, may not look like it to you, but so here, let me compare it. So see, like, this is a normal mug, and this is a small mug compared to it. So it's really small. I drink one of these a day because that's all I really need. I really just drink it because I just love coffee, and I love the warmth of it. I can't drink it after it's gone cold, so I heat up my coffee like 50 million times a day. Anyways, a squirrel, little side note. So I'm gonna... There you go. So now it's not just for show, but I actually drank from the cup. Okay. Anyways, so I have had this thought on my mind for a while. And I was reading from the book of Luke, and it's chapter 14, verses 28 through 33. And for the sake of time, I won't read it, but I encourage you to read it. But let me just kind of give you a little bit of a backdrop of it. So basically, it's Jesus talking about counting the cost, right? It's talking about counting the cost and what that looks like and what that means. And so, excuse me. So I started thinking about that, and I said, Lord, okay, you never ask us to do anything that you yourself have not already done. I said, can you give me an example of where you've counted the cost on something, right? And I remember driving home from youth one night, and I had one of those like, duh moments, right? It was like, ugh, of course. And I started, okay, just for the sake of illustration, just bear with me. Don't get caught up in the technicalities of it that you miss the point. And so just bear with me. So I kind of just had this picture of, where I picture God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, right? And they're in their little small group right now, and they're talking about how they're going to create and what they're going to create, right? And they got the very first mid-air touchscreen blueprints, right? And they're just pointing things out, they're drawing things out, and just kind of like really just working together about creation, about how they're going to do this. And so I kind of just picture them. They're getting like super excited, right? They're like, okay, yeah, we're going to create the heavens and the earth. We're going to separate the light from the darkness, the skies from the waters. And the land's going to produce vegetation. There's going to be plants and trees with fruit on it. And then like, oh yes, okay. And then we're going to create the sun, and the sun is going to go right in that spot. And then we're going to create the moon, and we'll place the moon exactly where it needs to be. And then there's going to be fish for the waters and birds for the skies. And there's going to be all sorts of creatures and wild animals to roam the earth, right? And then it's like, okay, so we have all of this, and now we're going to need man. We're going to need someone to rule over it all, right? So we'll create a man, and we'll call him Adam. We'll create him from the dust of the earth. And then he can't be alone. Once he learns responsibility, and once he learns nurturing, then we'll create another man from Adam's ribs, and we'll call her woman, right? So I kind of just picture this moment where they're just getting super excited, and they're like, okay, yeah, and then they'll live in the garden, and they're going to take care of the land, they'll take care of the animals, they'll take care of each other, they'll go on walks with God, and having lots of babies, and just multiplying themselves, right? Then I pictured a moment of silence where they just go completely quiet. And I picture God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, that they all had this moment of just looking. They all look at each other as if to say, you know what this means, right? And God and the Holy Spirit both look at Jesus, and they're like, it's you. Because if we go along with these plans, you're going to be the one to die in their place. See, they're counting the cost. That they are giving up something for the sake of man. They're sitting down, they're counting the cost of what it's going to take to complete the work. And I don't picture a hesitation, not at all. There is no hesitation. It wasn't a question on whether or not they should do it. They were all in agreement. They, being God, loved us before we were even born. And they already knew how they were going to express that love when the time came. But I wondered something. I wondered, Jesus, never being human before, but him being God, and God knows everything. I wondered if Jesus knew what it was going to feel like. Did he know what it was going to feel like in the moment when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he's praying and he begins to sweat blood? And he even prays to his Father, if this is possible, let this cup pass from me. Remember, he's 100% man. And he died 100% man. But he's still 100% God. Like, did you know Jesus? Did you know then, when you were counting the cost, what it was going to be like for you to go through what you went through? See, in verse 33, it says, in the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciple. So here, God is leading by example. He himself is leading by example of what it means to be a disciple of Christ. Listen, it's important for every potential disciple to consider the cost of being a disciple of Jesus. However, those who choose to reject and resist God should count the cost as well. Because what possible good can come from opposing God? Yes, it costs something to be a disciple of Jesus, but it costs more to reject him. See, I've found that counting the cost means recognizing and agreeing to some terms first. in following Christ, we can't just simply follow our own inclinations. We can't follow him and the world's way at the same time. It doesn't work that way. Jesus is calling people to follow him in discipleship. And in Luke chapter 14, he reminds us that it's like building a tower that you don't want to leave half finished because you don't have enough commitment or enough resources to finish it. So Jesus is basically saying, be sure to count the cost before you even sign up. Don't be naive in this. I don't want you to be surprised later when the cost is very high. So that's pretty much the gist of what he's saying. So how do you count the cost when you don't know what's coming in your life? I, for one, think that's a great question. Here's the answer, though. It can be hard to swallow. It can be rough. But here's the answer. Jesus requires upfront commitment to the highest possible cost. That way later, nothing will surprise you because you've already totally sold out to the highest, most excessive cost. In other words, you don't need to know the specifics of the cost in your own particular case if the agreement you sign is, I am yours at any cost. Listen, there was a time in my life where I've counted the cost. I had spent a long while counting the cost because I had hit a point in my life where I was just like, you know what? I think I could just walk away from God right now. I could just be done. Nobody would even care. Nobody would even know. Like, because my marriage was crap. My family was hanging on by a thread. And our circumstance was looking nothing like what God had promised us. And so I had been back and forth a lot with, you know what? I could just leave God right now. Like, I'm done. I'm so just tired of it. But I finally had to make a decision. And so I gave God 1 year. I said, God, I give you 1 year. 1 year. If I don't see change, I am done. But let me tell you, I didn't just say, okay, God, here's my decision now. Make it happen. I had to put work into it. I had to put my effort into it. I did things to show God how serious I was. I did multiple things. I fasted once a week for 6 months. And I didn't even put a time frame on that. I was prepared to go the whole year fasting. But he stopped me and released me of that fast 6 months later. I was in my room praying every day. Every single day. I did not miss a day. I was in my room worshiping every single day. I did not miss a day. I was in my word every single day. I did not miss a day. I was sitting at his feet in silence every single day. I did not miss a day. Let me tell you, my prayer life went to another level. And my prayer time with God, this was back in 2018 when all of this took place. My prayer time with God went from 1 hour a day up to 6 hours a day. Every single day, I did not miss a day. He knew what he was doing. And I can honestly tell you, there was so much junk inside of me that he just dealt with. He got rid of all the ugly, all the mess, all the horrible, everything that did not belong. He got it all out. I spent that year giving him my worst. But since then, I've committed to giving him my best. Listen, we need to count the cost. It's stop playing sides. Stop being wishy-washy. Stop being on the fence. Yes, no. 1 minute you're on, next minute you're no. It's not okay. You can't. James 4:8 says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. But it also says, wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, for your loyalty is divided between God and the world. It doesn't work that way. You cannot play both sides. Listen, I get it. I so get it. But you know what? God is so faithful. He took my efforts. He took my work that I was putting into it, and he completely transformed me from the inside out. I had been walking with God for years. So for me to hit a point like that, I couldn't believe it. But my view of him was getting worse and worse until he met me where I was. Until I made that decision to give him a year. And he held up his end. He showed up in my life. And I am forever grateful. I am forever changed. And I am forever truly committed to him. I've already counted the cost. The highest possible cost, no matter what it is. I'm committed to him. So I want to encourage you. Now, how does that apply to our life? Well, Jesus is the decision. Christ is the decision. So that takes care of the spiritual part. But now how do we apply that to goals and dreams that we're going after? You have to count the cost for those too. Count the cost for those too. Listen, we're trying to buy a home one day. So we're doing all that we can to get to that moment, to get to be able to buy our own home. It has cost us a lot. A lot. I don't know what else it's going to have to cost us, but I know in the end, it's going to be worth it. So you need to ask yourself, is your goal, are your goals in life, are your priorities, are your dreams, are they worth what you may have to go through to get there? Let me encourage you. If it's a dream that's bigger than you, that only God can fulfill, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. I kid you not. So listen, count the cost. Count the cost. And start today, because there's no time like the present time. Take care, you guys.